This is Family Like the Ghost, and we're live on the air with Téa Phillips, and we're gonna talk.
Hello.
How you doing today?
Good, good. It's a beautiful, rainy Friday here in Cookeville, Tennessee, and I'm happy to be talking to you.
Oh, I'm in New Hampshire, and we've got some thunderstorms rolling through. Hopefully, you won't hear them. But yeah, it's not a perfect day, but it's in New Hampshire. We're in the pines, so it's always good. Um,
hmm
Want to thank you for being on the show today. We're going to talk about your ideas. You're an inventor, you're a designer, and we're going to talk about this is the kind of meet the woman who is reinventing compression gloves. That's part of the conversation we're going to have. And we have your URL for the MetaFlex and that will be clickable for people who want to get into details there. But before we tell your story, I always ask every guest that's on the show a couple questions. So one of the questions is, what motivates you?
Um, Motivated by, at this point in the company, I'm motivated by my reviews. I made a product that's been helping a lot of people, and even though growing a business is really, really difficult, it's ultimately rewarding because what we've done has been able to help people. So motivated by trying to help people with MetaFlex.
That's awesome. So that's why you do what you do. Is like you have a motivation to kind of help people who have issues with like a medical condition or something they want to do, help them
With their
with
hands,
their
yes.
hands.
So my grandma had really bad arthritis, and it started with wanting to help her. But now we're out on the market and we're helping even more people regain their independence and feel better.
Yeah, I know. Being a musician, I ran into carpal tunnel because musicians we always over practice.
Musicians are at an increased risk for developing hand conditions. I think it's like 80% of musicians will develop some sort of hand condition or be injured. So hitting yourself with those drumsticks or
Yeah,
just overuse injuries from
yeah,
playing on the keyboard or strumming the guitar, whatever you're doing, carrying all of that heavy luggage from place to place is
yeah,
also, straining on the hands. So
yeah.
Metaflex is good for recovery.
That's awesome because I had to do the surgery and then I had
Oh,
some like rehab, and they taught me some exercises on how to not re-injure,
yeah.
and I
Yeah,
haven't re-injured.
strengthening.
Thank
Good.
goodness.
Strengthening's a big part of it. Preventing injury and recovering from injury. Strengthening, stretching, and then the compression that we put into it too. Good
So
for muscle recovery.
so I see the impetus was that you wanted to do something to help your grandmother, and then when in the training you had and the type of skill set you had, was this like a synergy, or somehow this came from out of left field? Is this something you were always kind of working toward?
Um, I I never really knew what I wanted to do. I went to engineering school because I'm good at math and physics I thought was interesting, and I wanted to build things and robots and rocket ships. And so I went to study mechanical engineering at Tennessee Tech. And
Mhm.
while I was there, I met my co-founders in a club called Innovation in Healthcare. And the idea was taking engineering students and then healthcare, like nursing students, bringing them together to solve healthcare challenges with like the engineering problem solving skills,
Mm.
engineering mindset. So my co-founder Sergio came up to me after one of these meetings and said, "We have this idea, but we don't know how to make it real." So I immediately sketched it out and I was like, here's how we're going to do it. We're going to use these materials. It'll be designed like this. And we completed the invention making and pitched in our school's pitch competition. We won. It was like a Shark Tank style competition called EagleWorks at Tennessee Tech University. We won first place and biggest social impact. Um, we went on to win third place in the Launch Tennessee, which is like a statewide student pitch competition. And from there, I just saw where people were backing us up. I mean, I when we were initially doing customer discovery, So the idea is, um, lots of people around the world are experiencing arthritis from
Yeah,
aging or overuse. And these people, and also a lot of people can't afford to go see a doctor, whether it's taking the time out of your schedule, taking time off work, the money that you have to
yeah,
pay
yeah.
to go
You have
see
to
a
a lot of
doctor.
yeah, you have to pay a lot. I mean, a lot
You
of
have to
times,
pay a
like,
lot.
people like with health plans today, people have to pay their deductible. And the
Yeah,
problem is, like, sometimes younger people go with a higher deductible plan thinking that they're indestructible, and then they overuse things because they don't think about it, and then
yeah.
they get injured, and they find out, like, "Whoa, I got a $5,000 deductible before anything's gonna kick in." And so they're less likely to like, "Well, if I gotta pay that much, they're not gonna go."
They're less
So then
likely to get care.
yeah.
So, we wanted to find a way to help people manage their arthritis without having to go to the doctor. And yeah, so we researched compression and strengthening were two of the most recommended therapies, but people weren't doing their strengthening exercises because it's tedious. You have to remember to do 15 reps and squeeze this stress ball. So we made a wearable grip strengthener.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'll show you. This is MetaFlex.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the idea was just combining those two most recommended therapies into one device. And so it has these stretchy elastic bands
Mm,
that you can put anywhere on the Velcro straps. These mimic the tendons, ensuring natural hand movement. So the idea is really gentle compression. So you're reducing pain when doing daily activities. And as you're going about your day, when you're moving your hands, you're strengthening. When you're at rest, you're stretching, always a really gentle compression. So we made this as an at-home option to help people manage arthritis. So
so
I
do you
kind
wear
of
that during the
fell
day,
into
or
it.
do you wear it just for, like a time period?
So it's been really surprising. About half of my users are sleeping in the gloves. Half of them are wearing them during the day because their hands hurt or because they want to work on their grip strength or both. And then half of my users are wearing them at night to recover because the stretching,
Mm,
or they wear them to sleep because some people, lots of people, wake up and their hands are closed. And if they're not closed, they're mostly closed and they're stiff and it hurts to open them.
mm,
So they wear the gloves. It keeps your fingers extended. It's custom for each finger. So if you just have problems with one of them curling up, and the compression helps to improve circulation, so you don't wake up stiff or in pain. And it's helping a lot of people, but I've been surprised by how people are using it
well,
more
it
than
seems
just arthritis.
Well, it seems very intuitive because, like, it's something that's easy because it's a glove. So
Yeah,
it's like it's not something that's gonna be like, if you make something that's overly complicated, like in my for in our in software engineering, we get people who want to go overboard, right? And they do some, but it's always like keep it simple because a
keep
lot of
it
times is the
simple.
you keep it the simpler the design, less fail points, less if we go to upgrade it or maintain it, you don't have all these failure points. And so if you can make something a more elegant design and it actually serves the purpose, it's not, you don't need to make it overly complex.
Exactly. That's why it being simple, when people tell me that it's such a compliment, it means it's less likely to fail and it's easier to use. So it's intuitive, like you said earlier. People just get it when they see it. And it's been really, really cool.
Now, like in your engineering, as a mechanical engineer, do you have to specialize in like medical engineering, or is that something you just kind of fell into?
I got a bachelor's. I didn't specialize in anything. If anything, I took some classes on business and I got a certificate of innovation and entrepreneurship. I was one of the first two people to get it. They had just introduced the program, and you just had to invent some things. I've invented more than MetaFlex. MetaFlex just is just the only thing that I've brought to market so far. Um,
Mhm.
but I worked on toys for kids who learn differently. Um, I think I did that twice. Yeah, and so I've always been kind of tinkering and making
You
new
like to
things.
tinker. So, well, you didn't have
Yeah,
a specialization focused on like biomedical type of devices. You just because your grandmother, and then you had this like conversation with your colleague, your partner, and
yeah,
that's interesting because like a lot of times ideas come from I always felt like, in Victorian poetry, is the idea of the muse, and people who
Mm,
are creative kind of get downloads, or they're able to kind of. It's kind of like there's stuff going on in your subconscious and stuff going out outside you. There's kind of
yeah,
metaphysical, kind of liberal arts, kind of poetry stuff. But the idea is like creative people seem to have this ability to synthesize the inner and the outer. So
yeah, to
whatever the
see
outer stuff,
things.
yeah, that you're getting your left brain, your right brain, kind of like a Da Vinci kind of thing. There's an art and there's a science, and you can
Yeah,
pull in like these art kind of more artistic type of things, ideas that are more associated with the arts, but they also can apply within mechanical and designing development. That's
yeah.
more right brain, left brain. There can be a synergy, and when people realize you can tie the two together and they don't have to be separate, then you can get a lot of cool things happen.
Yeah, I agree. They shouldn't be mutually exclusive. I think it's really fun to create new things, and I use the engineering side of it where I'm understanding forces and where this needs to tie in and how much force needs to be applied and all of the joints of it. And then the creative part, which is just making something beautiful, making something that people want to use,
Aesthetically, like the design part, like
aesthetically pleasing. And that's kind of like a fun part of it. So you get to do a little bit of both when you're inventing something new.
like a
Uh,
Model A or Model T versus a Ferrari. They're both
yeah.
cars, but the Ferrari has like the art to it.
It's got the art to it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really beautiful. You know, the people that made it loved making cars. And
yeah,
you can tell in the way that it's
the
designed. And I
passion.
hope people think that I love making gloves.
Yeah, because
Um,
if you get that, you see the passion and the elegance of your design.
yeah.
That's something that doesn't always happen because some people they make things that are not aesthetically pleasing, and it might work. It might be like they do something that's very profitable. It's not that aesthetically pleasing. It's just it's there,
Then you're
but
not gonna use it.
yeah,
Yeah. It's like when you're scrolling through videos on your phone on some social media, if something's really informative, but it's not like eye-catching and pretty to look at, you're not gonna stay and listen for the whole video. You want something to be interesting and practical.
and that kind of comes to this idea of like when you're like an artist, you want to spend all your time doing art.
Yeah.
If you're an engineer, right, you probably want to spend all the time like in the lab, kind of come up with ideas, or
Yeah.
right. But then in the real world, they have to have ideas that actually are going to get put into place.
In
So
the
how much
real
of the
world, you have to
business
do business.
business? Yeah, that's the thing. Well, all artists, we're like, oh, I actually have to sell this,
Oh,
and that's like the hard part. Because like I'd rather be, at my
selling it is
board.
so scary. It's so scary. It's like, I made this, and you give it to the world, and you don't know if they're going to like it or not because your friends and your family say, oh, this is great. And your advisors and your mentors are like, you're doing so well. But when you actually bring it to people, it's really terrifying, but it's worth it because either they love it and it's perfect, and that sometimes happens, or they like it, and that's what normally happens. They like it, but they have some things that they would change on it, or they hate it altogether. But
Yeah,
most of the time, you bring something to someone, they like it, and they just have some ideas. So just if you've got something that you're working on and you think, oh, I'm too scared, you're gonna have to push back that fear because if you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to go into business and you want your inventions to come out of the lab or out of your garage and out of your head and into other people's hands and making their life better, you have to bring it to the people and you have to push past that fear. MetaFlex, I look at my original version and I'm like, ew. I mean, she's good. People love it, but I see all of the areas that it can be improved, and it will be in version 2, and we're taking all of our consumer feedback. And
right,
honestly, whenever somebody gives me feedback on the idea, it hurts my heart a little bit, but
yeah.
also it's just they're doing it with love, and we're all making this together and making it better together. So
Hmm.
it's a really emotional experience to bring something to the world as well.
That's interesting because like I would say there's a parallel. Like if you're like a singer songwriter,
Mm,
singer
yeah.
songwriter has a vault, like probably hundreds, if not thousands of like projects. When they finally go to that cafe and sing one of them, they've kind of gone to say, well, this is the one I'm going to present, right?
Exactly.
And it's like it takes a lot of effort to actually go on that stage and bring that. There's so many people that won't actually go to that cafe and do that. And it's kind of like the same thing with like engineering. Like I'm in software design, we're in these like jazz sessions, we're in our, and there are people that they always raise their hands, always go to the whiteboard, and there's got people in the back. It's like they're kind of, oh, I don't know if I should bring it.
Yeah.
It's like the well, if you don't bring it, then this guy's gonna keep on bringing it, and you're
Yeah,
never gonna
they're
get
gonna
your
bring
idea.
it, and it could go off in the wrong direction, and you could have tweaked it.
Yeah.
So it's important to bring your ideas to the forefront. It's scary, but we got to push past fear to grow.
So does that like the idea like imposter syndrome? I know that usually gets into kind of metaphysical, but sometimes people don't feel like the things are worthy. Right. So was that a hard thing for you to think the idea was worthy enough to bring to market, or you started getting a lot of you immediately got really good feedback and it's like you didn't have that kind of hesitance?
So when I first had the idea and we were working on it, when I talked to my grandmother, I was just, before we even pitched in the student pitch competition, I was like, the first step is have an idea and iron it out. And the second step is tell people what you're doing and get their feedback. And I knew this was going to be for arthritis. I knew my grandma had arthritis. So I talked to her about it. And she told me, well, I had observed her and I had noticed that she wasn't doing the things that she loved to do anymore. She wasn't gardening. My grandfather was gardening. She wasn't knitting. She had
Mm,
him on the sewing machine. He was cooking. And so she wasn't using her hands because they were hurting. And she told me, and like one of the uses of sleeping in it at night, she told me when she went to sleep every single night, she would hold a tennis ball and put a sock over her hand because she was waking up with her hand in a fist and it was stiff.
wow.
I imagine and I just felt I understood that this would change her life. Like this would change her life. And there was
It's
no
like,
imposter syndrome. There was just responsibility. You
yeah,
have to bring this to
you had
market.
a
This is
mission.
going to change people's lives. So luckily, I didn't go through that. I always felt like I had to do it. So as soon as I got started, there was really no stopping.
That's awesome when you get that passionate, because I think that's a lot. That's like the thing that the permission structure, that when you're a creative and you make that decision to bring it to the world, that you've kind of made that choice that you're not
Yeah,
going to let people, like even when people say something, right,
yeah.
or tweak it, right, the person who brings it to the world, puts it out in the ether, puts it into on the whiteboard, they know they potentially could get, tagged. Somebody's going to go and say, well, I don't like it, I hate it. And you can take that personally, especially when it's like your baby. If it's something
Yeah.
you've done, and a lot of people feel like, it's a creation process. So they feel like they birthed something into the world and they take it personal. And I mean, I've run into it in software design. I've run into guys who design code. And then I have to come along, to something that was in place for 20 years and say, we need to move this to a new platform. And they take it personal, like it's a personal attack.
You
But there's the
can't
people that do.
have your identity. It feels, when you succeed, it feels good to have your identity tied to your work. But your identity is not tied to your work. You can't do that. You can't take it personally. When things have to change, you gotta, and that's one of the biggest things that you have to train in your mind if you're gonna be a creative, if you're gonna put things out into the world, is you can't take what people say about it personally. And when things need to change, it just needs, you gotta move past it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that feels like failure, and failure, I mean, if Thomas Jefferson gave up how many attempts? He had like hundreds of attempts to make
Yeah.
that light bulb.
Yeah.
If
It's always
um,
like multiple attempts.
it
There's
was
so many
Edison, wasn't
iterations.
it?
Yeah,
I
this
don't
is
remember
yeah.
people's names. I'm
No, that's
sorry. I'm
fine. No,
not
that's
dumb. Names are
no,
bad for me.
no,
But no one that's made anything great has made it great the very first
no,
time.
it's an iterative process. I mean, we go through thousands of iterations, hundreds of iterations before we get to something that's actually going to hit production.
Yeah.
And we go through like a lot of proof of concepts and all kinds of things that we have in our environments. We have our unit environments, S system integration environments, and then production environments, and we have our model office environments, and we run things blue sky stuff. And so, well, what happens if we try blue sky and see like, oh, we know that's probably not ready for the world's not ready for this, but we're gonna blue sky and see what happens.
Yeah.
And it's like there's so many iterative things going on. I find it exciting because failure is not a problem because we actually learn so much from the things that didn't work.
It's
That
a lesson.
that's the best,
Yeah.
it's actually nothing. We don't take it like it's a bad thing. It's actually a good thing.
It is a good thing. That's the whole point. It's a good thing to learn these lessons and constantly be improving. And what you're making isn't made for everybody. Even the best-selling products in the world and the best, most streamed songs and the best, highest priced art, somebody doesn't like it.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
not for everybody. You can't take it personally.
It's like the law of attraction. You put something out, and I live in New Hampshire. I put a lot of like really, strange electronic music out, and I get people from the Netherlands, people from Australia, people from like Berlin. But in my hometown in New Hampshire, people like folk music. So they don't really like the kind of stuff I create. Like if I was just totally focused on my local environment, I would think I was failing. But
Yeah.
because we can put stuff out in the ether, my audience, I can find people, all over the world that like my stuff and they like it at a higher level. And it's like, so I don't get enchanted
Yeah.
because like just because the local group doesn't like it doesn't mean that you're not successful. You never know who's going to want it.
My local community thought I was crazy. Um, and I'll preface that by saying my parents.
Mm.
And it's because when I went full time into ATS, I quit a job that paid me a lot of money as an engineer. I was working for like a government contractor facility as an engineer, making bank, great benefits, and I quit my job to
Well, that's
work
the
on my own
entrepreneurs do
startup.
that. Entrepreneurs, like they people, it's hard because people want to go to safety. I mean, human beings have a tendency to do the safe thing is the 9 to 5,
It
the
is.
government job, the Fortune 500 job. But when you're like, I'm working with like a group of entrepreneurs that have like a startup. And 3 or 4 years ago, they weren't as successful. And then they called me back and now they are. And I like work, and I've worked with Fortune 500s, and I actually like being in more of the startup environment because I find it like there's more opportunity to kind of like be whoever I need to be, and there's a lot of
There's
cool stuff going
so
on.
much opportunity in
Yeah,
the
and if I
startup world.
in the Fortune 500 world, you feel like you're in a box.
Because they want one thing from you. They will give you this and they will take this. And then in the startup, you get vastly different cultures of the company because it depends on the owner. Like my company, we have unlimited PTO and remote work. And if you need to take a day off here and there, just like make sure everything's in on time.
Mhm.
Um, and with, other companies aren't like that. They want you
No,
in the
yeah.
desk, clocked in, right
Well, yeah, it's
then.
like then they wanna know how can I get like a startup type of mentality, but if you still have the box in the box mentality, if you're still working like on a bell curve, like
Mhm.
you want everybody in the middle of that curve, and the people who are working in the startups, they're on the edges of those curves, right? They're doing the stuff that's like not in the mid range. They're
Yeah.
out there doing things, and neurodivergent people or people who have quirky things that don't fit in the box, they get
Mhm.
penalized. But in certain organizations, if that person can actually get it done, what does it matter? Right. So if they're allowed to actually be the best they can be and not being judged by whether they wear their tie right, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
dress code.
yeah. What's that got to do with engineering? what's that got to do with software design? If whether I'm wearing the suit or the tie, or I show up like a certain, there's certain kind of protocols or
Yeah.
etiquette that's not really part of the what is it you're trying to do? Is that the
When
highest
I
priority?
Yeah, exactly. When I was working as an engineer for a company, I had to look up in the employee handbook, like, what color hair am I allowed to have? Because some companies will put that in there, like you
Yeah,
have to present in this way. They didn't have anything in there, and I dyed my hair pink, and it was fabulous. But having to worry about stuff like that, like, can I show my tattoos? Like, can I
yeah.
have piercings in my face?
Not everybody is supposed to look like you're in the frat boy club from Harvard.
All the same.
The
Yeah,
same thing,
yeah.
or they're in this kind of blue blood thing. It's like you're all gonna like that's maybe the old world.
It's the
There's a
old world.
there's an
It's the
old
old
world
world.
where that was the considered that you have to have the uniform, you have to have the uniform mindset. But in the modern world of where we are with AI and blockchain technologies and all this stuff that's coming with robotics, there are people coming from all over the world, from different cultural backgrounds, different language backgrounds, different social understandings. I mean, I work with global teams, they're all over the place. And, everybody has a different cultural background and now all coming from the same cultural background. And so there's a lot of cool integrations or it's like that this big soup of all these different flavors and aspects, and people are looking at things and you want to see like that different cultural interpretation, because then like it's a global market. So if somebody in Japan sees it this way and somebody in Hong Kong sees it that way and somebody in South Africa sees it this way, it's like, well, maybe I should know about that
Yeah.
because that might help me where I'm trying to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really uh, the world is so beautiful right now, like with with the internet, that we can talk to anyone anywhere in the world, and it has cons. Like, you can see same day, same second almost, all of the atrocities that are happening.
Yeah,
But you can also communicate and learn from people all over the world at any time. Like, we're all on Reddit. We're all on, we can be on the same Discord server.
yeah, yeah,
We're all on, the social media apps. Um, so it is really beautiful. And I like working with people from other cultures as well. Our manufacturing is in China,
mm,
and they are the experts in compression wear. They said my glove is the most difficult glove that they've made so far, and I've got versions that are much more complicated that I'm very excited to show them. But I went over there and I got to meet the people in person and eat the food, which was fantastic, and just like do business with people in China and form a really solid relationship and foundation. And they have different work culture than we have, and it was
yeah.
just really interesting to meet them and learn about that and shake
Or
some
their
hands, make some
manufacturing,
friends.
capabilities from I've heard in terms of like the die casting and the manufacturing base and the technical expertise and the quality and being able to replicate people's designs accurately,
In
efficiently.
mass,
Yeah,
tight
and
tolerances. Ours
yeah,
is a medical device, and so our
yeah,
tolerances, like, they have to be
yeah. If you can't,
exact.
that's what I think some people have forgotten about. Like American manufacturing, I don't want to put down, but like we didn't get in that game. We decided to be in the
We
services
didn't get in
game.
that game.
Yeah, we've decided to be like the engineers are here, the designers are here, the software developers, and then like some of the stuff we have like programmers
Research
and yeah, we
institutions.
have like coders in Poland,
Yeah.
coders in places where the coding is less expensive, but the actual architects, software architects, they're U.S.
Mhm.
So it seems like that's what people don't understand. They want to go back to like building the Model T, building the Model A, but it's like this is a world where people are using their minds, you know, and maybe there's a whole generation of people maybe that wanted to work in those factories, but I don't know, maybe not. Um, it's hard. It's hard to kind of go back in time where we are now. This is where we are now. This is kind of like creative capability that you could have a micro level. thing with a 3D printer, right? And you have an
Mhm.
idea and you could actually get it done, right? You could actually get it out. You could start building something. You could build like a thought idea. Like you go in and build, have a webinar. It's all about philosophy or concepts. You can get that to happen. You can monetize it and you can be successful. You don't have to work in the old frames. You
Mhm.
know, this is a totally different world, and we're trying to reframe things back to 19th century frames. I don't know if that's the best idea.
I don't think we need to go backwards. I think we need to go forwards. And I think we need to work with people from all over the world and learn from people all over the world, and really, really come together as the human race, all of
Yeah,
us,
it's like
working
global.
together towards advancement.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in Japan for 2 years,
Oh, I'm
and
so jealous. I bet it
I mean,
was
I lived in
amazing.
Tokyo, downtown Tokyo, like Roppongi area, near Shibuya, and there was just there's nothing. I mean, they have like a zero defect mentality, same idea. I was in Akihabara, it was like electric town. They had these micro little factories. They were
Mhm.
building components in Akihabara, and you could get like all kinds of really tight, like, high level components for any kind of electronic device in the world that you ever want. There's like these little places you could just find it, and then people all over the world come in there to get certain sources, so to source their stuff. And it was just because it was just so tight the tolerance or so unique the product or the capability, and it was just amazing to be in an environment that had that level of technology, and then have kind of like the Japanese mysticism of the Shinto culture at the same time in the
Mhm.
same spaces. And so you're like, it was just great to be in an environment like that. Whereas like my Western ideas, I didn't want to like, I was just in, sing with it. I was just, I don't know, drinking in all
Yeah.
that culture and not kind of saying, well, I want a burger. No, no,
I
you're
d
actually going to go
I don't
get
want a
some.
burger. I want
I want
sushi,
sushi, I want sashimi, I want
noodles. Yeah.
noodle. Yeah, I don't need to have like, but you had some Americans there. Was like, I got to go to the Hard Rock and get a burger. I'm like, really?
Oh,
Wait, you could get Kobe steak and you could get sushi and sashimi, and you're gonna go to the Hard Rock. You go back to
yeah.
Chicago and go to the Hard Rock.
It is my favorite thing about travel, eating in new places and experiencing all those different cuisines with ingredients that we don't grow here, that are grown
Yeah.
only in like tropical regions, or, Tennessee's not a
Well, yeah,
tropical
it's not
place.
all fried, it's not all fried food.
It's not all fried. This ain't from a bag, processed, heavily processed.
Yeah,
Mm,
it was just amazing to get, like, great food every day in
yeah,
Tokyo. You could get anything you want. If you wanted German food, you could get German food. You want Irish food, you could, you could get a real Chinese restaurant that's not fried foods. Like you could get scorpion, you could get all kinds of stuff you wouldn't normally get. And
yeah.
it was just amazing to be there. My daughter actually went to a Japanese preschool and kindergarten. And even to this day, she has like a Shinto, she's a graphic artist, and her art has like a Shinto influence.
Oh,
So it
yeah,
has like
that's
this
so nice.
Japanese influence in all of her art. And then people are like, well, how did she get that? Well, she went to school in Japan when she was very young, and she was taught the calligraphy. She was taught like the kind of mindset, and
Mhm.
it had a lot of the mysticism of the spirit animals being taught as a kid, those fairy tales instead of the grim fairy tales.
Yeah,
So it's a different mindset. And so she came up with a different way of looking at the world. And I always thought, well, that's amazing that she got that, that, and that's a benefit of being in a global world, that instead of saying, oh, just read Richard Scarry or, or read some classic grim fairy tales, like be open to like maybe she could learn what this culture has to offer, and she benefits to this day, as an artist.
yeah.
But so like when you started to make hiring decisions, how was that for you?
Well, there's a specific type of person that works at a startup. Some people do fit into the corporate mold. They want a 9 to 5. They don't want to think about it afterwards. They want steady and consistency. People who work in startups thrive on change and, dare I say, chaos,
Yeah,
because opportunities pop up out of nowhere, like at the last minute, we need to send like a special custom PR box to this team to have them see if MetaFlex is going to be a good recovery tool for their athletes. Or we get the opportunity to go on this news show, and so we need to prep and have the social media people there and make sure that they're ready to film and have some plans and things like that. So you have to find a really specific person, and I have found them, and I don't know if this is common or not, but just through my network. So the two employees that I have right now, one of them I found because I was asking a friend who was hosting a conference. I was like, I'm hiring for this. You know anybody? And she recommended this perfect fit for me. But I had been asking around for probably like a year. I need marketing. I need a marketing person. Do you know a marketing person? And I finally found Megan, who's our brand manager, who just started full time this month in June. She's been doing part time work for us up until now, but really excited to have her on board. And then my chief clinical officer is a hand therapist, and he works full time at I don't know if I can name drop, but it's a trauma center, a big
Mhm.
trauma center in Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay.
And so I had done a pitch competition, and someone from that college, someone from that hospital had seen me. And so when he was working on a different product and just gloves in general, they're like, "Did you know about MetaFlex? You know the glove girl?" That's what I am commonly referred to as the glove girl, which is nice. It's a
Yeah,
glove that's helping people. Never saw that for myself. I always thought I'd do something, sexier like robots.
robots, yeah. Well, robots are the thing, but you never know. Sometimes you get into some place and that ends up being your jam, you know? It's like
Yeah,
it's not what you expect.
yeah.
It happens all the time. It's like the thing that you didn't think was gonna happen ends up being the thing that happens.
Yeah, yeah, you can't see it coming. So for hiring, it's been luckily I'm meeting people through my network, through going to conferences. I'm like constantly talking about MetaFlex and telling people everything that I'm doing, and then the right people are showing up, which
Do
is
you
just
think that
really
works
beautiful.
better than, like, the LinkedIns of the world? I mean, what I've been
So,
finding, I that sometimes these, like, job sites are not really doing it in the way that they used to, that people are finding people the old-fashioned way through networking, communication, going to a conference, talking to somebody more like that than some of these sites.
yeah. And I think finding people online would be nice because we want our network to be outside of Tennessee, and I want people that work for ATS to work outside of Tennessee and just like have different perspectives. So we are hiring right now for a social media coordinator, and I've got it posted on LinkedIn. The majority of applicants just aren't right. We did interview two really impressive candidates recently, and so they applied through LinkedIn, and they're really impressive,
So
and
you
they're
did find some.
moving to the next round of interviews. So we may find someone through LinkedIn. We're also gonna post on Indeed. I don't know where we're gonna find the perfect person, or maybe if someone we've interviewed already is. But what I found with LinkedIn is on our job posting, we put at the bottom of the posting, here's how to apply. Send these things to apply at metaflexglove.com. And only we had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of LinkedIn applications, but maybe 40 or 50 of those actually sent me an email and was like, here are
Actually
my
follow
things,
if it didn't
followed the
actually follow this,
directions.
that's a
So I
common
don't know
thing.
if they're just like clicking through on LinkedIn, and I understand because a lot of people are getting laid off right now. One of my friends just lost her job, and they laid off 50 people from her company because they got acquired. They were told there weren't going to be any layoffs, and there were. So people are losing their jobs right now. And I understand that they're looking quickly to find something that is a
Yeah.
good fit. So that could be what it is. People are just applying quickly, but I haven't found anyone online yet, but that could change in the future. We're still looking online.
Well, as you grow, then the need becomes that sometimes you have to go for that more global. online presence and you find it there. But what I find sometimes is what I've seen in the last 5 years is people don't seem to always follow instructions that people think are obvious.
Yeah.
There seems to be people like skip over things. Like maybe my daughter even has like some stuff she's doing with her artist community, and she has very clear guidelines when she does like these contests for disabled artists. And sometimes people don't read through everything, and she
Yeah.
makes it very clear. And there's a lot of people that don't follow the clear instructions, and I'm like, I don't know what it is. And maybe
When you're
people
applying for a job,
move
you
too
gotta
fast.
read the instructions.
But seem they I don't know if it's because of our attention span today. 'Cause I've talked to people like we
Our
people used
attention span is like nothing.
nothing, yeah, and we people used to read 200,000 word books. Now they can barely read 60,000 word books.
Yeah.
People can only watch a 15-second, 30-second post on a TikTok. They can't go watch things that are longer. If you try to watch a movie from the '70s, they say the pacing's too slow. Like
People
this
used
is
to have time to just sit back and be leisurely, but now with these things, it's like all of these social media apps are designed to keep you on it for as long as possible, which means they're addictive. They're
yeah.
constantly like they know we know psychology, we know when you're releasing like dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin and all of these things that make you feel some way, and they're doing that, and it's, I think, really bad for our brain health. I don't know if it's going to increase our processing speed at, as humans, as a race in our brain, like we're going to start processing things quicker as a whole, or if it's just going to do damage to like our neuroreceptors and
Because I think
um
there's a certain amount of time you need to actually the problem I see is, like, there's an overload. Like, so if you keep on getting overloaded, and you need to actually be able to process what you just saw or heard and come up with an understanding of what it is. But if you keep on getting hit in the same time period with 10, 20, 30, 40 things, that thing you got 5 things ago, like, you can't possibly keep up with it, and you're not gonna retain it. And so did
yeah.
what value does it have if you don't retain any meaning or
If
derive
you're
meaning?
doing the same mental task, so you're watching videos and you're processing videos over like for too long, then you have a buildup of like waste that your brain needs to process through, but it can't because you're still using that center. And I'm not a neuroscientist, so my explanation of it is not
Yeah.
thorough.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but you do, like you said, you have to change tasks. So set a timer on your apps, folks, and if you've been on it for, 30 minutes, set it down, go on a walk, do something differently with your brain than watching videos because your brain needs to rest.
Yeah, it's like
Absolutely.
a diminishing return, like, I know, like, if you're a coder, you don't wanna sit at your desk 4 hours straight coding. You actually need to get up and walk away from it because you're too close to it and you'll miss stuff. And so
Yes, and that's how it processes. When I get stuck on a problem, I get up and I go for a walk, and sometime in that walk or like later on a different walk, it'll click and I'll have the answer.
yeah, like, a lot of times it's like, like a musician, like, people used to make the mistake of being in the studio and playing that bass line 95 times in a row, right?
Yeah.
To try to get it right. What people have found is like, don't you just get diminishing returns by from like, take 70 to take 95. You're not really getting that much of a benefit. So you
Mhm.
need to kind of walk away and then go back and listen to what you actually did. And a lot of times the first like iterations, maybe the first 5 iterations are actually good, but
Yeah,
you
and
start
that's when you
convincing
had it and
yourself.
you tried to overdo it.
Yeah, and you actually wreck it. You actually destroy the song in trying to do version 101, 107, 108, 10. Like you actually got away from what you were trying to do, and it's not even what you were doing.
Yeah.
So I just think people need to slow down and give themselves space. It sounds like, oh, I need to be able to speed up. It's like, no, maybe back off.
The way to speed up and not run into a wall is to slow down. Absolutely.
So with your products, you're just doing advancements of MetaFlex, or you kind of come up with other products to the market, like, or a wider group of ideas? Are you trying to look at other things?
I'm focused on gloves right now. I've got probably 8 or 10 different versions of MetaFlex in my notebook,
Hmm.
two of which are coming out this year. So MetaFlex version 2, which is just based on customer feedback, we're making some changes. That'll be out this year. And then another version, which is going to hit the same target, but who has slightly different preferences. And I haven't talked to my marketing team. Maybe I shouldn't be announcing it too early,
Okay.
but we've got more stuff coming out. And next year we've got that lined up too. So we're going to be releasing new gloves for the next several years. Now, people ask me about other joints, and we can use this and similar technology and focus on other areas. So we'll
So
be
like knees, and
expanding
so maybe
there
like
too.
knees and ankles and other things maybe.
Knees, ankles, all of that, yeah. So yeah, we're focused on hands. We'll be making some other things to support the body in other ways. And then personally, I mean, I have a million ideas. I have so
Yeah.
many things that I want to do. But I'm focused on MetaFlex right now. And once I get this up and rolling and off and sold, we'll start working on the next thing.
Do you ever see yourself as like an entrepreneur? You start like one business focused on this, and then maybe do another business focused on that, and you have multiple businesses, or would you want to just stay focused on one thing?
Um, Multiple businesses, yeah, but not too fast. MetaFlex, I know how to get a product to market. I know how to get initial customer feedback, and I know how to make something that people like and how to get it to them. And now we're working on building the team.
Mhm.
Once I feel like I have a good grasp on how to get things up, going, working, and then scaling, I'll start to move into other things. But I don't want to split my focus too much.
Yeah. Can we have some entrepreneurs that'll go and do like wildly different areas, and be running multiple like
The
enterprises
next
at
thing I
once?
do will be very different from MetaFlex. I already know what I'm going to do next,
Oh, that's cool.
but
So you have an
I'm
idea.
waiting. I'm waiting to do it until the time is right.
That was right. Yeah, you don't maybe want to be running 3 at the same time. But, how was it, like, getting approvals through something like an organization like the FDA? Was that, like, a hard thing to do?
um, my background is research and problem solving. So it wasn't hard, but it took me forever. It took me months. I didn't have the money to pay someone to do it for me.
So you had
So
to
I
learn it?
read the Code of Federal Regulations, Section 21, on medical devices and medical device establishments and what needs to be registered where and how things need to line out. And I registered us with the FDA and got all of our approvals, got all of our barcodes. So it was a lot of reading and taking notes, but not difficult work.
That's
The most
cool,
difficult part was getting the money to pay the fee.
the
So
fees.
the FDA registration fee last year was like 8,000, and this year it's 9, or it was 7, and then it was 9,000, and I think next every single year it
Here it
has
goes up.
gone up, and
Mhm.
the barrier to entry is the fee. It's I feel like America is just a pay to play system, and it makes me so mad, and I'm so annoyed because
So the
I
big
grew up
guys.
rural and I know the effect that poverty has on people. The effect that poverty had on my grandma is she lost her life way too young because she had chronic diseases from stress and from eating bad food and from
Mhm.
always being on edge. Like, it
Yeah.
causes you to develop chronic conditions and you die from them and you die early and you die miserable. And I went off on a tangent there,
No,
but
but that
yeah,
makes
the
a lot of
FDA
sense.
fee is way
Yeah,
too much.
yeah, it seems
And
like a barrier to entry
it's a
because, like,
barrier to entry. And so we probably have so many new medical device innovations, but that is stopping them from getting to market. Because I have a compression glove. Should that be regulated? Should that require an $8,000 fee? I
Yeah.
don't think so.
It seems like
Um,
it's there for so that certain level of company can afford it and new entries can't afford it, so you have less competition. Seems anti-competitive to me because
it
if you
seems
if you
anti-free
really
market to
yeah,
me.
if you wanna have free market, why do you make that such a barrier? That's not a hard barrier if you've got the money. If you've got the deep
If you got
pockets,
the money,
yeah,
it's so easy to launch a company.
yeah,
Launching a company is not hard. Raising the money to launch a company is hard. It's the same formula.
yeah,
Operation, you get your product, you make sure your customers like it, you market it, you fulfill those orders. Like the process is easy. It's the money that it
it's a
takes to make it
barrier,
happen.
especially when you have, like, engineers. If you have engineers who are showing that they've got patented, blueprinted, viable ideas, and then you have these
Hmm.
barriers that are not really good incentives. Because you got all these engineers coming up with really cool ideas, either companies buy them out or suppress them from coming out for bigger guys or suppressing stuff from coming out. You either buy patents up or you buy people's ideas away from because they don't have a way to get it to market. So you get it cheaper by making them a work for hire and they give it to the company instead of doing it on their own. And I would think they wouldn't you want to have more entrepreneurs building businesses rather than people getting buyed out and being work for hire.
You would think so, but the people with the money are the people that are making the rules, which
Yeah.
is why I want to make money so I can fix some of these problems.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you actually stuck to it and you went and learned FDA stuff and you went and did it, so you didn't have to go so you actually got there and,
Well, I
you
got
lowered
there.
yeah, you lowered your cost by just taking the time. It's
Hmm.
still a cost because you took time. Time is money, but you
Time is, I
actually
still had to pay rent all those
yeah.
months.
Yeah, it's still a thing, but I do appreciate what the effort and the work you did, and I hope this is a very enlightening episode for people who are in this space, people who are very creative, inventors, engineers, to see that if you stick to what you really believe in, that you can actually make it happen, like MetaFlex glove, and that's really cool because that's the same kind of spirit that any creative person has that wants to get something out in the world, and that's what we like to have on the show is stories telling these stories.
Thank you. Thank you.
So if people go to Metaflex Glove, that they can actually get to your website and see your product and purchase it and get into it right there, right?
Yep. MetaFlexGlove.com. That's where you buy. We're also on Amazon, but shop local.
Yeah, that's a cool thing. Yeah, I do recommend people to do that.
Yeah.
So thank you again for being on the show on a Friday night. And like I wanted to indicate to people, like we've been live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. We will be on channels like Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Amazon by tomorrow. And I want to thank you for being on the show today and bringing Metaflex Glove to us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.